Right?
Yes.
If you don't have them, let's see about getting some.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And so as you say, write the sounds, write the letter that makes the A sound. In kindergarten, that will be A, right? So as they continue forward, it might be several letters that they put down, but I'm holding you accountable for what you write down and your letter formation. I'm a witch. And whiteboards and markers, please just remember, it says this in the thing, so I just had to put the primary lines. Just please remember that that is just not them, they're not saying A says A, they're actually writing that letter on those letters. So this is an example that I wanted to share. I didn't really prop it, I don't want to. But this was last year. When I started the year last year, I was asked to take over a first grade classroom, and I did, but I didn't even realize that the teacher at the beginning of the year had done a spelling inventory on the students until the end of the year, when I finally got a chance to dig in their stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at their beginning of the year to their end of the year. So talking to administration, one big difference was the accountability piece that they had in my class, and that they were required anytime they wrote to be on primary lines. So to see a student go from tier everything, and I had 21 kids and I had 11 MTSS folders when I started at the beginning of the year. And this was a student up for retention, and look what he was able to do at the end of the year. I don't ever stop where it says stop. I just want to
Where was this first grade class?
A Title I school at Wingate Elementary.
Okay, Wingate.
So just the difference, just to show again, this student was not even writing his first name correctly, starting first grade, and this was a repeater. So I got all the repeaters. So just to see from what he went at the beginning of the year to what he did at the end of first grade is, and I can show you my whole class because it became a discussion on how we can move forward as a school. Any questions? And I did hear Dr. Markhaman say that we will make sure we have opportunities for you guys.
What I don't want to do is sit in here, hear all these good things, and then you not have the resources to execute it. So, I'm counting on grade chairs. I need to know what you need to be able to do some of these things. Because the reason I asked, I didn't know what school that was. This is a Title I school, and we're starting, some days I think we're in a Title I school. Our diversity, our population has changed so much. If they can do it, there's no doubt that our kids can do it.
Right. Absolutely. My population in my classrooms have always been about 60-70% multilingual learners, and then Black. I think last year I had one white student. I don't know if I should say Caucasian. But hey, I'm being recorded. All right, step 4 is the blending drill. So this is about that automaticity. That is not, we're not breaking anything apart. We're able to fluently read those words, and you will have to hold them accountable. Now again, with this blending drill, my students might not need sick, slick, lick, kick, quick, wig, will. My students might need E and I. My students might need long vowels. UFLI doesn't know that. So it's so easy for me to plug in right here what my students need and still do a blending drill that addresses automaticity and fluency. Again, that comes back to being prepared and knowing where your students are going. For the blending drill, I want you to know that you can also use their resources, which is their board, but I'm gonna tell you, you do have to do some prep work, because if you click in here, as you can see now, if I want to do some different vowel teams or whatever, there's none here. So you have to go here, well, not there, but not in here, but you can click off to the side and it'll tell you different spelling patterns that you can put in. Again, that comes to that prep work. So if you pull this up in the middle of a lesson, you're not going to have what you need for the words that you have in your blending drill unless you've done the prep work. And that comes with also just having cards. If I was at my table, I would just have some cards to go through. Blending drill, ta-da! This came from Unionville Phonics Bank, okay? So this blending drill, I went right to needing those middle vowels and isolating it, and found something in there that I was just able to apply to my student right now. So again, with the blending drills, what you typically see is only one sound changing. So pet went to pit, and then the first sound changing, which was sit, and then that went to sight, so changing that vowel sound for like a minimal contrast. So you don't want to go from like crunch to onomatopoeia. But you do want to make sure that they're able to kind of like keep up and meet the needs of them. And I chose this one because it changes out the middle sound so much. So, and the other one didn't. It stayed a lie on the short I. And again, that comes with a paper. A new concept. Now, let me just tell you. I am not familiar with teaching a new concept in a small group unless I had high flyers that were ready to go and beef up that the other students weren't ready for, or I need to reintroduce something to a group that really needs it. So I know a lot of this new concept, irregular words or teaching a new spelling pattern or whatever, that is done in a separate setting, whole group, and then we're addressing the needs here. But if you need to, I just want to show you what that looks like. So for your new concept, obviously you're going to introduce what it is, the rules, the directions, why we use it, why we have it, and all the things. So to go with AU and AW, I think I put explicitly teach new sounds, the rules, the why, the articulation, hearing it, the graphing cards, and spelling it. You will do all the things in here. This is the bulk of the UFLI lesson at 15 minutes. So just be mindful, because I don't know, I've never had a small group that I had 15 minutes to teach the lesson and also respond to all the needs of the reason why I had in a small group to begin with. So it's systematically, it's explained, it's demonstrated, we model, and we practice. So the first thing you will do when you have something new, you will show them how your mouth is, and you will show them those articulation cards, those graphing cards, and you will put it on your, or near your your word wall, your sound wall. So it shows them where it goes there, why it goes there, and what to do. And then let's write, again, I put lines up here. This is for letter formation. So if we're learning a new set of skills, then we're gonna practice what those letters look like within the primary lines at all times. So then I would just go AW, AU. I don't know. I always have an anchor chart for like every single thing, but I was telling Starla that sometimes our rooms are set up in a way that we can't see our anchor charts. I just threw this together, but I would keep a small anchor chart. I lost it, but it would be a little card that would have this type of information on it to keep at my table to reference throughout. So they knew that this was up on the wall somewhere big, but while I'm teaching to them, just a little index card, I would have a lot of different mini anchor charts to teach from my table, just as a reference for my students. Any questions? Anything? I'm trying to go fast, but you can slow me down if you. So then we would read words. So we would read words with that sound in it, and you can do this in a multitude of ways. You can have magnetic letters, you can have letter cards, you can have whatever you want to make it more interactive for your students, but we would read words. And if you have your book and you're actually on lesson 93, it will give you the words to read. And so like the words might be draw, haul, and we will go through and point where each sound goes and identifying that ah sound. And then, here they go. And then you will watch me read these words, and this was something else again that you have to determine if you have time to do this. And if so much of it, because it'll go from watch me read to let's read together. So in those ways, I'm thinking of different opportunities for my students, like, do I need to take out my Elcona boxes and kind of have them move those sounds in there if they need that? Is it something where I want to have my magnetic trays? It's up to you, and it depends on the students that you have. I got some that won't ever touch a tray in my room, but then I have some that I'm like, it will be good to have that manipulation of material. Also, ta-da, this is in your phonics lesson plan. Everything that I just talked about UFLI is also here. I I went in and I looked, and you have the exact same thing. You see number 1, it says state, goal, and purpose, exactly what UFLI says to do, to explicitly teach it. This comes from your letters, science of reading requirement. It has the listening and manipulating sounds, word list, and then a daily recap of what you can do. Right here from your phonics bank, introduce new concept. All I did was go there, I screenshot it, and then I put it right in. New concept, this part is the next day. So if you decide to do a UFLI lesson across 2 days, if you have that luxury, then this review is only like 3 minutes. You're going back over it quickly about the cards, you're going about how your mouth works, why we do it, and then we get right into the B footage. And again, you'll have this whole 70 slides at the end for a quiz. Just kidding, no quiz. Also, Elkonin boxes are your friends. My students had these all day, every day. We will always do them. They will have to discern whether it was 2 sounds or 3 sounds. So I would just ask you guys to utilize, especially like in K1, utilize those sound boxes whenever you can for them to understand that this is why, how many sounds this word has. And again, that's a new concept. Now your word work. Your word work is manipulating the letters. So after you go through the concept, you'll get the opportunity to take those same letters and do some word work. Now that word work can be tapping into some stuff like those middle vowel sounds that I know my student needs, and also the new concept. It can be word chains, word sorts, fluency cards, vowel sticks, dictation, sentence starters. All of those things is in the realm of word work. And this part is with regular words, so decodable words for them. And it has 2 different parts, right? So it's encoding and decoding. So if my students say you have magnetic trays, and I say begin with shin, and I'm also showing up here, I'm writing it on my board, I'm doing something, I'm erasing, or I have my own letter cards and we're switching them out. Begin with shin, change the word to ship. Those students are encoding then. They're identifying what sound needs to change and they're putting it there. The difference is if I say change I to O, you're decoding. You have to look at that word and figure out what sound needs to change and then read the new word that you created. That's the difference between what's happening when you do word work here in this word chain. But again, there's a lot of opportunities that you have to use word work in that time. Ta-da! This comes from your phonics bank. And this is word work. I found it immediately as soon as I went to AU and AW. And it has a lot of resources for you guys to utilize that falls right within the realm of what UFLI is asking you to do. But this meets the needs of my student that I just did an assessment on. So this is going to grow her more than what UFLI has in the book for her. Okay. What UFLI has for word work is flaw, claw, law, saw. Well, I just taught her the concept. So why would I stay there with her instead of meeting where we needed to be initially with the middle sounds and then build and grow into that? So, and that's the point that we're making here. And then also it has a lot of different words that I don't think apply. This is also something that you can do for word work that comes from your phonics bank. Reading sentences or phrasing, doing dictation, all of that falls within the realm of word work. So if you're saying to yourself, I want to get more bang for my buck by incorporating dictated sentences so I can see some letter formation and clear some of that stuff up, and also doing my new concept, then I did it every day. So you're going to see some real changes if you do apply that. And even that fluency work of getting those sentences, those phrases, and just saying them with automaticity. From your phonics thing. Irregular words. This is another one that I struggle with because I don't know your schedules like that, but I do know that within our day, we're teaching our students the high frequency words, the irregular high frequency words together. So this would be, I guess, a review like we talked about, or again, if we have some that are ready for those next sounds or words and everything. But I will say that they have a review first. what I do when I review with my students is I say red words or green words, and they say red words, and I'm like, why are they red? And it's because they don't follow the rules, so we just gotta trap them and keep them. I just pasted a slide in here. So we would go through these really quick. This should not be long and drawn out. These are words that they should be able to have a strategy for and read immediately. So for my students, we would just tap it out, and I would say read, because it's a lot of different things that I notice about my students. They had 3 things they had to do, sometimes 4. Read, I would say read, and they would say should. So word, should, sound, should, spelling, S-H-O-U-L-D, should. So it was just like little ways at all times, because what you notice is in M class, you give them a word that you taught them, and you say, tell me all the sounds and from, and they're like, and from. I'm like, what? So you have to remember, I had to remember, maybe it's just me, that there are different things that I'm asking you to do within this word. It might only have 3 sounds, but it's got 7 letters and all of that good stuff. So it was 3 things. So this was S-H-O-U-L-D, should. And then I would say word, because strategy or writing, they would say B-E-C-A-U-S-E, because tells why. So it was just like automatic, and what you will notice, if you guys are already not familiar with this, is that when they go to write, they're saying it like B-E-C-A-U-S-E, and they just always checking on themselves. Each, E-A-C-H, each. So it was just little things we did at all times that just kind of latches onto them, and it was just so quick that they really enjoyed it. Sometimes I would say stop and have you write it in a sentence. So just those little ways to incorporate reading and writing. Now this is what UFLI gave me, 4. And I'm thinking to myself, is this going to give me as much bang for my buck as I need for this student? And is she going to see this word in 75% of her reading? No, not right now. So that's why I made the decision to not use this slide, but to incorporate the high frequency words that I know this student does need. And poor. Yeah. And so it was less spelled together, so sometimes we would spell them, sometimes we would stop and put them in a sentence. The new word that it would want you to teach was minute. And so again, I'm thinking to myself, is this word minute going to help my student right now at the beginning of the year with where she needs to be? Or based on the assessment that I've given, I know that a word like said kind of tripped her up on a cold read or something like that. So in place of that, I did said. So when I introduce high frequency words, it kind of follows Orton Gillingham, Wiley's Way, and all of those kind of things. Normally I show it in a sentence, and that is also something that we will have here. So if I'm at my table, I would write it out, and then I would have the red word be the word that we're going to introduce. And again, it comes back to that practice. And normally by the time you finish the year, you have everything you need for the next year as you go along. So I will read this sentence my mom said, look at the organs. So it was something with CKLA, I think, last year. But I would point to said, and I would say, we would like orthographically map it out and all of that good stuff, and it sounds like S-E-D, but now we know that said doesn't follow the rules. And we would go through, and I would say, okay, now let's see. Does that sound follow the rules? And it's yes, S is making that sound. And then I would say, eh. Do A and I say eh? No, so we know A and I here are making the S sound. They do not follow the rules. We're going to heart that, so we keep that in our heart forever. And then we know D, they're saying that sound. Good. And we will go S-A-I-D said. My mom said, my dad said. So it was just like something that we did it. So here is kind of what it would look like on your slides. And you can go through UFLI and find a lot of these words. But just for me, I wanted the same thing I did with my students at the table to be the same routines that I had structured in my room whenever we did our red words or heart words. Then we would spell them together, put them in a sentence and all that good jazz. Again, I can't express enough to make sure the data that you collect should be driving a lot of these intentional moves. Now going to the connected text piece, which was the last piece. The irregular words, what I will say again is this part is the reading and spelling portion. So we did the warm up into the blending, and then the new concept is the intro, and then word work, irregular words, and the dictation